Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Leo, and today we'll do a little video on the last session that was played yesterday night. It was the end of a big boss fight in the adventure A Blooming Vale. A Blooming Vale is an adventure landscape for the game Symbaroum that you can find in the first tome of the Throne of Thorns campaign called The Wrath of the Warden. There's like some extra adventures in this book, and that's what we're playing. And the actual topic of this video is that we had a great night yesterday night. It was a crazy action scene all night. And actually, we realized at the end of this, because they sort of managed to close the adventure at the end of this session, that we had played this adventure, this action scene, this climax of A Blooming Vale for 3 sessions in a row, for a total of almost 12 hours of play. So that is crazy. And I'm not the GM to really push for long battle scenes. I like them to be very quick with strong decisions to make during the battle that lead to either a retreat and a loss or a win fairly quickly. So this was quite the exception for our game, and for as GM, I'm always really worried that it's going to drag on and be boring, and that's the last thing you want for a climax scene. You want something that's really action-packed. So I'm going today to show you to just come back to the different steps of how we managed to make 12 hours of battle be fun, exciting, engaging, stressful, and maybe that can give you some inspiration for your own games. So what I did is I just, in the document, I wrote like the different stages of the fight over those 3 sessions. I'll just go through them real quickly and tell you a bit of what was my GM mind thinking about through these different stages. And I'll show you the maps that I made for this tower where this was happening. So just to set the scene, we have an ogre wizard, we have a human wizard called Mikariol, the ogre wizard is Vild, a barbarian ranger, if you want, called Mirezin, a Templar of Prios, so a paladin type called Lodome, she's a Templar, and we have Beau, which is a self-taught mystic, sort of the healer of the group, but he's a goblin and he's pretty unpredictable. So that was our group. They had 2 ogre porters to carry their gear through the forest of Davokar, and that was the entirety of their group. And when this action climax began is when they entered the courtyard of the ruin, actually really well preserved ruin of the tower of Na Etikel Ambreagos. Na Etikel Ambreagos was a Symbaric lord. And he, of course, is a crypt lord, an undead lord today. So that's how it started. And I made other videos about this whole process and all the prep that I did for those sessions, so you can watch those as well. Today we're going to really concentrate on what are the different cogs and wheels and moving parts of this climax scene that we managed to make really interesting. And I say we because it's really an interplay between myself and the players. I did not know how they would get through this scene. I did not know if they would survive it. I never planned for a scripted outcome for such scenes. So I just present the challenges to the players and see what happens. And then the art of GMing from then on is to pace the scenes and bring new elements, and that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to switch screens here. So these are just the notes I made to the recap notes, if you want. Okay, I have some tea here. Where we played last night, and I got to bed really late, and now I'm having a little morning tea with this video. So voila. If you want, as always, my English is not my first language, so if you want to speed up things, you can listen at 1.25 speed. It's usually a good idea with my videos. Okay, so let's go back in. So the first part is up here, stage the courtyard. So in the courtyard, I can show you the map. I'll go show you the map of the courtyard. Okay, I don't need to do this like this. Okay, so this was my first map, like really, really ugly. But I like doing sketch maps like that because I don't want the players to get in board game mode. And actually, before we started last session yesterday night, I told my players, just a reminder, I said, okay, you know, we've been in this fight for a long time. We're playing on maps. Don't forget your role play. Don't forget to, you know, how your characters feel. Have them dialogue to one another. It's not because it's a fight scene that all talking has to stop. You know, this is like a movie. You know, you can fight and talk at the same time, especially as there's lulls and it's not always a full melee. So I just reminded that, and I think it helped to just keep people focused on the imaginary part of the story and not just the map. But this was the map. So this is the ruins. I can just take off the fog of war for a moment. Okay, so you can see better. Okay, so this is the ruins of the Tower of Ambreagos, deep in the Blooming Vale. You have this square tower here on this sort of base. You have big steps that lead up to it, like Mayan temple style steps. All of this is pretty worn, but still intact in places. The cover, this rock that was used to make this tower was glazed over with a shiny greenish emerald green, and over it, of course, the vegetation, the mosses, the lichens, the vines and stuff started climbing over it. So all of this is covered in vegetation. In the courtyard, there are some stumps because the undead cut down trees to start rebuilding. And where the little skulls are is where the first stage of the fight happened. And then it moved inside the tower. And so we'll move to the other maps later on. I'll just go back to my notes. So the first stage was the courtyard. The group entered like that. Let's say the more tactically minded players weren't there that night, and so the group decided to enter this fortress of an undead lord. They knew that there was an undead lord in there, by the front door, and just walk right in. I was thinking, oh my god, this is going to be bad. That's what I was thinking. And so when they get in the middle of the courtyard, I had the Templars. They had Templars of Prios with 2 Templars, 2 squires. They had the slave rune in the front of their foreheads. They were controlled by the Crypt Lord. They came out of the tower and hailed them and went down the stairs and came, you know, very officially to greet them. And they said, you must join the armies of our Lord. Our Lord wants you as his officers. You could have a high place in this army. If you refused, you must die, and you will become a grunt. You know, you will be raised as a simple undead and become a grunt of this army. Of course, this negotiation couldn't go anywhere because they were enslaved. But they saw in their eyes that they were desperate. The Templars. The Templars wanted a way out. They basically wanted to die. So it was pretty tense. And the Templars finally attacked because the players wouldn't comply, and they were forced to with the runes. So what I did, so there's the negotiations, the Templars attack. In that scene, I had in my mind, I said, okay, the Templars will be overwhelmed pretty quick. They're only 4. We've got magic and everything, and I didn't want to reveal everything of the other threats of this landscape yet. So I just sent in the vilings, which are big swarms of black birds that are also controlled by Naetikel. And so these came in as the second wave. So that was a GM build-up decision. Then once this was in the mix. So the vilings basically swarmed the ogres, and the Templar started hacking at them. So they got busy killing birds. And then from the balcony of the tower, because at the top of the tower there's a balcony. I put a yellow line here. So there's a kind of a row of windows, if you want. And Tobela is a Ordo Magica mage, and her novices, they are enslaved too. They're obeying the will of the Crypt Lord, and they started throwing spells down at the PCs. So the first one to do so was one of the novices, and he started to use Bend Will to bring to try to control PCs and bring them in the tower one by one. Then Tobela, the master, started using Mind Throw to throw the PCs around and cause mayhem and give an advantage to the Templars and the Vilings. And so they managed to reply to that. So that was the first real stage of the battle. And what made this part interesting is the different waves that I used to pace this battle and to make it incrementally more complex and dangerous. So it's really a tool. I think that would be the first tool that I would recommend. At least it's been good for me for years. I've been using this, and it's really waves. And waves means a new challenge. Something changes on the battlefield. It's not necessarily new combatants. So in D&D 5e, they have the lair actions rule or thing. So that's the idea. You have to see it like anything that can make this fight more interesting. That's a lair action. Okay. So for example, in this fight, they're in the Blooming Vale. I already established from the beginning that there are some hot water geysers in this. This is a valley that's all like a huge sinkhole, in fact. And so there's these pools of water producing great amounts of fumes. And I could have just, for some reason, like a big bank of fog comes in and obscures the battlefield. That could be something that happens in this place. It could be a heavy snowfall starting because we're in winter. It could be all sorts of things. So when you prepare these fights, that's what you have to be thinking about. It's like if the fight sort of grinds to a halt for maybe 3-4 rounds, they're just hacking at each other and grinding away at toughness points. It can get boring real quick. So you need to be able to have something to pop up at every 3 rounds, I'd say, or every 4 rounds, you have something new happen. So that's what I was always thinking during this whole fight in the courtyard. And I had ammunition. I had thought of these things beforehand, and I was thinking, okay, I'm all set. I have things to sort of spice things up. So if you go back to the end of this first phase, the Micariol was held by the Ogrevild so he wouldn't be mind thrown by Tobela, and he threw a brimstone cascade at the balcony. He heavily burned Tobela, and then he used Bend Will to control the novice and force him to slash his rune across his forehead with his dagger, and that liberated the novice. So the end of this first stage, the novice flees, Tobela, heavily burnt, retreats in the tower, and the Templars are killed or knocked out. So they sort of won the day in the courtyard. And then the goblin, they were thinking of maybe retreating, and the goblin just ran to the tower and went in. That's sometimes, those players, they don't ask for permission and they just do something, and the rest of the group has to suffer the consequences. So that was one of those moments. So to his credit, the player that plays Bo had really bad dice rolls. Like, he didn't do much in this whole battle scene. So for him, it was a bit frustrating. He got into the fray, he got slashed, almost killed, he fled, he healed himself, He came back out. He got mind thrown. His equipment went all over the place. He wasted a round to go pick up his things. So it was kind of boring for him in a way. And so when he finally had the initiative to do something, he just went for it, and he went into the tower. So that's where we start. Okay, and in the tower, I'll show you the what it looks like. So this is the ground floor. So he went in here. I'll zoom in a bit. There was this huge mosaic of a head of a bull, and he just went along the wall into the stairwell, went up to the second level. Second level is not mapped because it's identical to the first level. Like this is in French is rez-de-chaussée. It's like the ground level, and then first level. So first level looks like this here. And he explored some rooms and everything. And while that was happening, the rest of the group gathered and went back to meet him. And they left the ogres with the knocked out Templars outside to guard the door of the ground floor of the tower. And so they're exploring. Bo is just heading up. He's exploring and heading up all by himself. And he hears the novice that slashed his rune coming down the stairs trying to flee and get killed on the darts of the second stair trap. So I decided to do this here because he was exploring. We just had finished a very big battle scene. I didn't want to have him encounter some extra battle right now. That's the thing about pacing. You need to sort of alternate between, there's parts where it's more we're regrouping, thinking, and then something bad happens, a fight ensues, and then some. And so even in a very dense action scene where it's like in a film, it's like the last 30 minutes of the film where all hell breaks loose. So you want to keep the pressure on all the time, but you need to have these lulls and mini climaxes and that wave. And what I wanted there, that's why I wrote info decision, is that I'm pointing. I have to point with a pointer, of course. Okay, so the GM info decision is that I wanted to just give a bit of suspense for him, give him a bit of a thrill. Secondly, this novice was coming down. He had to meet someone at some point. But I could have played it just, you turn around a corner and you face a novice and he says, "Help me!" It could have been something like that. But I decided to really play it on the suspense side because he was in scout mode. He was super stressed. So I had him make a visual test and all that. And he heard somebody coming down pretty quick in the stairs. So he retreated. He was sort of huddled, ready to jump into action. And then he heard something not clear and the thud of a body falling to the floor. And so then he creeped up to see what happened, and he saw this novice basically dying from poison before his eyes. And he did not help the novice because he thought a sniper was in the stairwell somewhere, and that if he moved out to try to help the novice, he would get shot. So he just left him to die. And then the others arrived, and they sort of split up. That's really fun. So Beau, the barbarian Mirezin, and Lodemé the Templar went up, tried to help the novice, saw that he was dead, and noticed the trap, how it worked, and there were little arrows on the step, engraved on the step, to show that this step is to be avoided. And so I gave them this info because I want the trap to be a hurdle, but I don't want it to necessarily be about getting shot again, because that if you listen to my other videos, there's a second stair trap of the same mechanism in the last flight of steps that leads to the throne room. So while they were split, Wild and Micariol, the mage Micariol and the ogre mage, opened the door to the third level, and they are faced with the undead court of Naetikel. So they're like a group of mummies having a party, and I describe it in detail in the other videos, but So that was the cliffhanger to the was it the second session? I think that was the second session. The first session ended after the courtyard fight. Second session ended after no, maybe it was no, first session ended there. So so next session, battle ensues with the undead of the undead court, and Lodemé comes back down to help, and she uses her blessed shield. She sort of sneaks in, gets to the wall, lets them come, and just slashes away and destroys almost all of them by herself. So that was cool. That was that, and that was like a that was could be seen as a slog because they spent multiple rounds with Wild in the doorway stopping them from coming out, and her just on the side of the door, back to the wall, just hacking away and having Blessed Shield burn them away. And that lasted for, I don't know, 4 rounds maybe. So it was a real slog. But what made it interesting and not boring at all is that only 2 player characters were stuck in there, and the others were doing other stuff. So it was always like a parallel montage of multiple actions, and so it kept things lively and fun. And it was also fun to really establish the fact that Lodemé killing undead is her thing. Like she's geared to do that. She does it really well, and so she had a, even though it was like a sluggish, like a really hacking away at tens of zombies or mummies. It still had something really cool about it because she was doing her dirty work, she was doing the work. Like digging the trenches, she was hacking away. So that was fun. And while she was doing that with Wild, the other ones, let me see, they were doing the exploration, and after that, yeah, Beau and Mirizin, so the barbarian and the goblin, now alone, keep exploring to get to the top of the tower, and that's where they get almost to the throne room. Beau knows that there's possibly another trap, and he because they notice, I don't remember how, I won't go too much in the details because I know I don't want to waste too much of your time, but basically they get real close to the throne room, and they hear the voice of that sends somebody. At first, actually, they hear the voice of the novice of Tobela that is just whispering to Tobela as she's trying to heal her burn wounds. And then they hear this growling voice and sends off the novice to explore in the stairwell to see what's happening. And so this young blonde woman, blight marked, comes in the stairwell and meets Beau and Mirizin, and there's an exchange of fire. They shoot at her. She throws some brimstone cascade at them. It was pretty hectic. She goes back to Naitikel to tell him what's going on, and he sends her down again to try to cause some mayhem. And that's when she does another brimstone cascade, and that goes over her corruption threshold, and she transforms into a blight-born creature. Just as the fight with the undead court is finishing in the room. So that's all happening here. So there's a fight in this room, and the Blightborn novice comes down the stairwell at the same time. So these 2 scenes that were in parallel come together at the same point, and they fight off everything. They successfully destroy the Blightborn and all of that. And that's sort of the end of that phase. And then, once that's done, they're expended. Mikhail is severely blight marked. People are starting to add up wounds, and so they split again, and they decide to send Mikhail downstairs to fetch the ogres, and to have them come help, or at least come in the tower. When he gets to the ground level, he realizes the ogres are inside holding the door, and the undead horde is outside trying to push in. So that's another build-up decision. So we had a tiny lull between after the fight in the stairwell against the Blightborn and the undead court, and now things are ramping up again. So they decide. I don't know how they decided that, but that's how it happened in the thick of the action. Lodome decides to go down to help because she wants to kill some more undead. She gets down there. They understand that there's because they check by the windows and they understand there's a lot of dragools outside, and for some reason they order the ogres back, and they say, "Let them in. We'll hold the stairwell." And so Lodome is in the stairwell at the ground level, and she's facing one dragool at a time, and she's in full defense. So in this game, full defense means that she has 2 rolls to try to defend against their attacks, but she can't attack back unless she does a crit on her defense roll, which gives her a free attack. But the idea for her is she just wants to hold and let the blessed shield burn them off. So we're as we're doing the rest of the scenes, because the rest of the scenes are not really in round mode. So I came back to Lodome a few times and I had her throw like, okay, let's do 5 rounds of combat. So she would throw 10 20-sided dice to see if she succeeded and if she got any crits. And then she rolled 5 d4s of damage. And I just, she was chipping away at this horde. And I was telling her, I was saying, for now, it's okay, you're still full power, but they're going to wear you down. You won't be able to fight non-stop for like 50 rounds. You're going to get tired. So there was a sort of a countdown mechanism there. So that put the pressure on. It's just keeping the pressure on. And so while that was happening, Mirezin, Beau, and Wild decide to go to the throne room and confront Naetikel. And they enter the throne room. And actually, they all stay in the stairwell except Wild. Wild is sort of like the emissary, and he walks in the throne room. And he talks to the Lord that is sitting on his throne with the urns on the sides. There's Tobela gravely burnt at his feet. And there's a very interesting conversation there while the fighting goes on at the ground level. And he tries to convince the Crypt Lord to give back Tobela without fighting for her. And the Lord wants to convince him to join his army. And of course, the Lord can't convince them. They in no way they want to be part of his army. But Wild doesn't succeed at convincing him to liberate Tobela either, because the Lord wants this companionship. And so at some point he uses the urns in the roof to try to put Wild to sleep, but that fails, and battle ensues. And this battle, actually, Wild, they're all shooting as what they can at the Lord, and he's really tough against non-magical weapons. And so they realize that they're barely hurting him, so they're starting to get scared. He has a big maul with the emerald head, and he hits Wild once and does some damage and causes some corruption, and they're going, oh shit, like we're in corrupted terrain right now. We can't get rid of our temporary corruption, and this Crypt Lord is dealing temporary corruption with his maul. So that was bad. So Wild tries to, that's where creativity comes in with the players, is that he says, okay, I'm going to try to wrestle him and take his maul from him. And he actually succeeded completely crazily with a really good roll. And then he turned his weapon against Naetikel and hit him hard with a magical weapon, and actually caused quite some damage with the maul. And then he... the Naetikel decided to flee and to jump out the window, because that's his tactic. That's a bit strange. That's what's suggested in the adventure. He sends his bodyguards out the window to raise the rest of the undead army. And so I did the same thing for him. So he jumps out the window, and when that happens, Wild just made 3 terrible rolls. The last one being a fumble. He tried to free attack him to finish him off, and he failed used an XP, failed again, used a permanent corruption, well, took a permanent corruption, and fumbled. And so I had him lose the maul to Nightingale. Nightingale jumps out with the maul, and he disappears, and they regroup. So that's the end of the throne room. They free Tobella from the slave rune, and all the while, Le Demay is slowly retreating up the steps, hacking away and killing Dragools, but she's getting really hurt. So the last phase of this crazy battle scene was yesterday night. And yesterday night we started with Le Demay in full defense, retreating, badly wounded, and the others that have successfully took control of the rest of the tower, basically, coming down to help her. But she's in the stairwell. It's one person wide, and they can't really rejoin her that easily, and whomever is going to be in the front ranks will be face to face with a Dragool, and you know that Dragools are really strong in this game. And so who can handle a Dragool and another one and another one for rounds upon rounds? That's, it's doomed to failure. So they're trying. So Mirizin with his bow is trying to place some shots between, over the head of Le Demay. She's hacking away and using her blessed shield, but she's getting really weak, and that's when there's the game changer happens, and that's player creativity. We had some player creativity up in the throne room when he grabbed the maul. He almost killed Nightingale right there, and it's just the fluke of the dice that made Nightingale survive this. So that's the first big move that could have really changed the battle. And second big move, same player actually, Mikariol decides to take the Sunstone that they had from the very first adventure. So it's a magical stone that has certain powers, and the most powerful power that destroys the stone is to liberate the spirit, the fire spirit that's within, that they had attuned to and that they knew. And so he throws the stone and liberates the spirit. The spirit appears like a feminine flaming form with long arms that can become spears of flame. And she's sort of slightly hovering over the floor, and she goes over Le Demay and starts killing Dragools. And Le Demay backs up, gets a bit of help. Still, Beau is exploring, wasting rounds and rounds exploring by himself instead of coming to heal people. And so she's just panting and getting some support from Mikariol while the spirit starts killing Dragools and pushing them back. And Mirizin, that's another really great player thinking. Mirizin, the barbarian, used trick shot to disarm the Dragools facing the spirit, because the spirit isn't that strong, doesn't have any armor, but by disarming the Dragools he takes away a lot of their fighting power, and then the spirit is very powerful offensively and kills a Dragool per round basically. And so the Dragools, confused, start retreating, because that's where I'm as a GM, they had a really creative idea, and I have to make it impactful on the scenes, but I want to do it in a logical way, a way that's interesting story-wise. So what I do is that I decide that these Dragools that are in the front ranks, they're faced with a flaming spirit now. So their hunger for blood and flesh is not attracting them upwards. They're a bit confused, and they still maintain a kind of a fear of being destroyed. They have a survival instinct. They're not completely mindless. So they see that this creature is super powerful and cutting them down, and they can't eat it. So they start moving down. They don't know what to do. So they're pushing down, and they get all the way back down to the hall. And that's where the spirit, in its frenzy, and also slight mindlessness, just charges in the hall. And that's the last phase, the entry hall. That's where the whole story ends. And so what happens there is that the spirit wads into a horde of 50 dragools and starts hacking away. And Mikariol, seeing that, knowing that the spirit won't last long, surrounded by dragool, orders the spirit to find the one with the emerald maul and kill him. And so the spirit starts jumping. I gave the spirit acrobatics because I thought it was really nice with the visuals of this flaming spirit sort of walking a bit like a hidden, what is tiger and dragon, crouching tiger, crouching dragon. I don't remember the title, but you know the film, Chinese action film. So with people running on walls and on. So she was like that. She was a bit light and able to run over like on the shoulders and the heads of the dragools, and they tried to hack at her as she passed, but she was too quick. And she made vigilant rolls to try to find the man with the maul. During that time, the barbarian Mirizin makes quite of an error. He turns berserk and he's only novice, so it makes him really vulnerable. And he charges in the room because he wants to attract attention, so the fire spirit can do her work. He wants the dragools to turn to them. Lodome comes with him in support, uses a persuade roll to attract attention to her. So they're a bit in the room, and all like I don't know, 15 dragool come to them, and they're going to be swarmed, and they're trying to manage their defense line. And Vild the ogre comes to help, and that gets really how do you say, gnarly. It was gnarly. They were. I was thinking, okay, this is the bad move that's going to cause some death in the party, and it was really going to be like that. So what happened is that Mikariol, the mage, seeing that they're being overwhelmed, pushes in with his flaming servant as well, exposing himself, and casts Flame Wall, bringing his corruption level to 15 on a resolute of 15. So he's like almost Blightborn. And this Flame Wall basically cuts off most of the dragools, and only a few are left to fight. And even that fight with I don't know, maybe there were 6 left or 7 left, that was gnarly, with behind the flaming wall. And they don't know what's going on with the fire spirit. And I play the fire spirit. Well, they throw the dice, but we played. And the fire spirit doesn't find the Naitikel with the maul inside the hall, and decides to just come back here. Decides to get outside and find him. And where is he? We'll see. I put him. Go back to the main map. Just for added, I don't know. Added gore, for the thematic of dragools and undead and flesh-eating creatures. I had him right here. He was kneeling over the body of the Templar, the dead Templar Aaron Kalfas, and he had torn his body apart, and he was eating his heart, and he had blood over his face, and the spirit ran down the stairs, like almost flying, and went straight to him, and jumped with a 2 spears instead of hands, and slashed down at him. He took his maul and was waiting for her to come to whack her out of the sky, but she was quicker. She had a better quick than he did, so she attacked first, and she slew him. That is crazy. I was sort of not perplexed. I didn't show any perplexion when we played, of course, but I was thinking, are the players happy with this? But they were cheering all along, and they were really happy. And I think they were in so dire straits that they would take any help that they could. And they did the rolls for the spirit, so it was a bit their win too. But she killed the big bad, and the big bad was back to full health because he ate the Templar, and every point of toughness that he eats heals him 2 points, like all the undead. And so the only thing I could have used to try to defend him, and I might have tried. It was that he had. I can go back here to my notes. I forgot that he had the dominate here, that he could just force her to hesitate. Because if she hesitated for one round, he could have whacked her out of the sky because she wasn't that tough. So it was two glass cannons facing each other. So initiative was crucial, and I forgot that. And I think you know, with hindsight, it's not that bad that I forgot because it made for a great ending. But that's the part that I find hard as a GM in this game, is that there's so many abilities going around a lot around. I have these cards here that I use, but it's just that in those these action moments, there's the rhythm of this verbal storytelling. You're telling the story as you play. You don't want to be stopping to look at stuff all the time, and sometimes I should, and I don't, and I forget stuff. But what I did, I can show you again the stat block that I made for him. I'm going to do this from now on. I just need to reread this before we start playing, or at some point when we take a break. I didn't reread it, so I sort of completely forgot. I was managing so much stuff, and yeah, I just completely forgot that he could do something. I just went over his abilities in my mind in the moment, and I forgot about that one. And so I was thinking, okay, he can, the only thing he can do is wait for her and try to kill her. And I had him be confident because he was at full health, so he was thinking, okay, I can take this little fire thing. And he was killed because he has good armor, but she was doing a lot of damage. So there you go. He was slain. That's the start of the end. The rest of the group didn't know what happened. The fire spirit came back to them, and sort of made a salute to the Templar and then vanished. And they were retreating up the stairs to the place in the tower where I put some bars. There are some bars to block the stairwell, to stop invaders. And so that's where they went. And Beau had managed to fix the lock and make it usable. Because he had picked it. He hadn't broken it while he picked it the first time when they came in. And now they closed this here. And they just regrouped behind the bars and let the Dragools come. And that's where we stopped yesterday night. So now they're wondering how to get back to Thistlehold. This place is corrupt. Tobila confirmed them to them and give them some insight about what's in the underground parts, because she saw it when she was prisoner. So they know that there's a room with copper tubes of ancient lore. They know that there's a collapsed tunnel and something dark behind it, because Naetikel told her. And they know, so they're intrigued by that, but now they just need to flee. So they want to use the 7 League Stride as I thought they would. But in this place, they're going to do strong rolls every hour and gain corruption. So there's going to be a little of stress because he can only take one at a time. So it's 1 hour to do the ritual. He leaves with one person. So he's going to leave with Michael the first because he's almost Blightborn. So they're going to take him out of their just emergency, and then come back to get the others. But it's going to be a really long process. So that will be the prep for the next session. I will see how I will create some tension there. There's one thing that I have up my sleeve is that Wild has Nemesis Bane. So there's an arch nemesis that hates Wild, and this arch nemesis is actually some bigots, the same that hate Sarvala. They don't agree with the fact that an ogre is a mage, and so they will fire torch. They will sort of attack and vandalize their workshop and home. Wild is the apprentice of another master, and they live together in a home in They have a shop, and so that will be attacked. So I will mix this attack of the Arch Nemesis with the coming and going to and from Thistlehold using the 7 League Stride. So it's going to be a bit of a montage again between what's going on in the tower and what's going on in Thistlehold, and I'll have things happening on both sides. So it's going to be pretty crazy next session too. But you'll get more info on that in my next GM prep. So that's the end of this video. If you like these videos and you want more, please like and subscribe and comment. The comments would be good. I haven't had many comments yet. So if you want to just pop in a little comment, maybe ask if you need me to make the stat blocks public or available to everyone, or things that, I don't know, anything that you want to tell me about how I do my sessions. Maybe give me some ideas on tools I could use or ways I could organize better. If you want to support the channel, well, you can head on to Drive Through RPG and use the link in the description to check out my adventure that I published there called Playing with Goblins. I think it's a nifty little adventure that could interest you. So again, thank you for being there, and see you next time. Bye-bye.